And I know you'll probably say, oh, well, we get blue balls and things like that, which you're probably keeping your sexual energy in that genital region, in that root chakra, instead of allowing it to rise. Energy does not want to stay stagnated. It wants to move. So if it's not literally moving out of you, it wants to move up you. We're not allowing that energy to rise in our body and creating from that energetic source. So we're focusing our attention on why we can't bust this nut or why we can't orgasm, instead of focusing our attention on how can I use this energy to create, which is what it's meant for.
Listen to this man's warning about this one particular sin that'll be the reason many people will not turn to Jesus Christ.
Sex outside of marriage is a sin according to the Bible. It's a sin because of what it does to you psychologically, what it does to your future marriage. Sociologists and psychiatrists are now coming to say that that is true. The sense of guilt that it leaves, and especially among young women. And the Bible says it hardens your heart toward God more than any other sin. If you're living that kind of a life, you can almost put it down. You're not going to come to Christ. It's possible to come to Christ. It's possible to come and ask his forgiveness and he will forgive you. But your heart hardened, and it's hard for you to have a relationship to God. With God's help, he will forgive you, and you can leave here as clean and as pure as though you had never committed a sin.
So I started out creating this video to explore the concept of sex before marriage. But what happened is this video ended up exceeding my expectations for what the topic is really about, which is the importance of retaining our sexual energy, married or not. I don't care what the Bible says. Let's get into it.
It's outside of marriage. Someone is being pleased and punished for the act of sex outside of marriage. Just because it's good don't mean you're not paying a price. Fornication, that's called sex outside of marriage, unwed. And I want to motivate my men, wasted seed.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Amanda Haynes. If you're new here, happy to have you. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you're feeling up to it, go ahead and subscribe if you like the vibe and would like to join the tribe. Anytime we orgasm outside of the act of purposefully procreating, we are wasting our life force energy. Doesn't matter if you're single, doesn't matter if you're married. This energy on the most basic level is meant to create life. But just because we're married doesn't mean we're supposed to be releasing our life force energy outside of procreation. And that's all I'm saying. Let's see what somebody else has to say.
You shame yourself for experiencing sexual energy or sexual charge in a relationship of any form, especially when you've requested intimacy and to be held, because there is a fear of intimacy there from you, because there is a challenge that you experience in, I will receive this love, I will receive all this beauty, but then it could be taken away from me. And when you then move through your world and you make requests that are non-sexual in nature of a woman to hold you and just to be with you in that way so you can begin to practice receiving that level of love. But then let's just say there's a sexual arousal that moves through your body, and my invitation to you is to transmute it or to sublimate it, to turn it, to bring it into your heart, to turn it into love.
I like how he mentioned transmuting the sexual energy. The thing is we're endowed with the ability to create, and we create through sexual energy. Sexual energy is just the name that we place on the feeling of arousal, but sexual energy is the same thing as creation energy. The energy we experience in our body as arousal starts at the base of the spine and is felt through our genitals. So we think that just because we're feeling this energy in our private parts, that we're supposed to expel it. The truth being, we're supposed to expel the energy at the level of the sexual organs when we are consciously trying to procreate or create a human being. Outside of creating from this lower sexual energy, we are supposed to allow our energy to rise to different levels in our body through the chakra system. But because we experience the energy at the level of the genitals and believe that we're supposed to release from there, we experience so much frustration when we're retaining our life force energy. It seems really difficult to retain semen or to be celibate, because we're not allowing that energy to rise in our body and creating from that energetic source. So we're focusing our attention on why we can't bust this nut or why we can't orgasm, instead of focusing our attention on how can I use this energy to create, which is what it's meant for. And that's what he's talking about in this video, is transmuting this energy. And in this specific video, he's talking about allowing it to rise to the level of the heart and opening yourself up to receive love. But ultimately, I think that's why people experience so much frustration, is because they don't actually realize what's happening within their body, not only on a physical level, but most importantly, on a spiritual level. Let's keep going.
It doesn't even matter whether you're just fucking or if you're making love. The context almost doesn't matter. It's an act of giving, which is why when dudes have sex, what do they almost always do afterwards? Pass the fuck out. You're literally giving your energy away. I would humbly suggest that you are very careful and intentional about who you give that energy to and how much you give away, because it's the creative energy. It literally is. Sexual energy and spiritual energy are the same thing. Sexual energy is the physical manifestation of spiritual energy. How you give that away and who you give that to matters massively. So be careful about where you give it. And if you can keep that energy strong, then you have an ability to create in the world.
I'm going to go as far as to say being intentional about why you're giving it away. So like I mentioned earlier, this being, and like he said, this being our creator energy, in what capacity and why am I giving it away in this moment? And this is all about living with intention and integrity. The thing is we're always creating. Always. We're creating not only with our life force energy, but we're creating with our thoughts, we're creating with our emotions, and we're creating with our words. So why you're giving this energy away, why you're depleting yourself of your life force energy is extremely important. So living with intention means introspecting on why you do the things you do. So asking yourself, why am I so determined to give this sexual energy away? What is it I'm seeking from this? I've noticed with a lot of people that sex and orgasm is used as a method of escaping stress, releasing stress, escaping our current reality. And so asking yourself, is there something I'm trying to escape from in this moment? Are there feelings I don't want to feel that I'm trying to cover up with this dopamine hit that's coming through when I release? What actually happens on a spiritual level when we release is extremely deep, which is why what this guy is saying about why the giving of the sexual energy that men experience after orgasming is so draining, because what's happening beyond just the physical expression of busting a nut is so much deeper than I think we actually realize. Let's keep going.
Sex is not casual. It comes with turmoil and pain. I work with a lot of high-level guys that are just casually fucking, and then they're like, I want to get married and have kids. Your actions don't show that. How about you bring some heart to your actions, and that's how you integrate. And then they feel turmoil and pain. They're like, fuck, I don't like this, man. Casual sex is hurting me. It's not like it used to be. Congratulations, it's actually how it always have been. You were just coping. You were numbing yourself. Now you're aware. So you see what you do to others? To put yourself in that position, you need to be a level of self-destructive, and to be the person that's going to take what they want from other people, you need to be a psychopath in order to keep doing that. He's a man, and he's connected to his heart, and he's giving you an act of love. You'll have a different response from women when you become that kind of man. And casual sex will no longer become a thing, because you'll no longer need others to fucking empty your juice.
I really like what he said, and I think there's something so powerful about his message that ultimately the act of sex outside of expelling our life force energy is about giving, not receiving. So when we're having sex with someone that we really care about and we love, it's not about getting our rocks off. It's about giving them an experience. It's about connecting with them on a spiritual level, on an energetic level, because at this point, you can't get any closer with an individual physically than being inside of them. And it goes back to what I was saying about intention. What is the intention behind what it is I'm giving away? And I think too, we have this conception that sex has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. that end being busting a nut or orgasming. And when we're coming from a place of giving, that doesn't necessarily need to happen. And I know you'll probably say, oh, well, we get blue balls and things like that, which you're probably keeping your sexual energy in that genital region, in that root chakra, instead of allowing it to rise. Energy does not want to stay stagnated. It wants to move. So if it's not literally moving out of you, it wants to move up you. So if you're giving to your partner and there isn't an outcome that you're trying to experience, and you don't want to experience blue balls, then figure out how to transmute that energy and allow it to rise. And I'd be interested to hear if you still experience that same sensation. Let me know in the comments. Let's keep going.
You want to learn a lot about your life? Go to sex. There is no greater mirror for life and for your life than sex. Let's talk about the man. The man enters sex and he's preoccupied with so many different thoughts. Is she gonna like it? Is she gonna finish? Am I gonna finish too fast? So all of these thoughts are programmed in the mind. So is he free? Is he free to fully express? Is he free to fully live in the moment? Is he free then to fully love her? He thinks of it as a transaction, as an action. The same way he thinks of it as a goal, as his business. There's something that he is going to get from it. And his insecurities show up in the getting of it. And where do most of these issues come from? They come from the energy of shame and guilt. A lot of it comes from religion, because you were told that sex is bad and sex before marriage is bad. Let me let you in on a little secret. Nothing is bad. You're free to do whatever the hell you want to do. There's no such thing as sin. It's just you, your desires. So when you're constantly told that something is bad, then guess what you have to do? You have to do it in secret. So what do most men do? Most men, since they're living in the energy of guilt and shame, they go out, they go in secret, they get one off real fast, and they're training their bodies to constantly just get one off in 5 seconds or so. That's why they can't last in bed. And that's why the woman has to fake it.
There's so much shame around sex in our society, in the collective consciousness. It's deemed as taboo. Parents are afraid to talk to their children about it. We're afraid to talk to our partners about it, about what we've experienced, about what it was like in our childhood, having these feelings come up that we didn't really necessarily know how to handle. And so religion doesn't necessarily even help with that, because there's this narrative that you're only supposed to feel those things and act upon those things in the confines of a marriage. And with most of our society not living that paradigm, we've shamed ourselves and guilted ourselves for a feeling that is so natural. And what's interesting is we tend to feel this sexual energy at such a young age, but because our parents didn't really know much about sexual energy, and their parents didn't really know much about sexual energy, and the church doesn't really know much about sexual energy, we're just told not to have sex, to be abstinent until marriage, and that's pretty much the extent of the talk, outside of protecting yourself if you do decide to have sex. But the thing is this feeling comes up at such a young age and we don't know what to do with it. So we think these urges are unnatural and sinful. And so all of this shame and guilt comes up and it lives in our shadow, in our psyche, and we tend to act out, masturbating in private, having sexual relations outside of the committed relationships we're a part of, and we're walking through life hiding this piece of ourselves that we don't want anyone else to see. And so if you're struggling with any shame or guilt in general, this can be outside of sexual immorality, as religion refers to it. There's a book that really helped me in healing my own shame, and it's called Healing the Shame That Binds You. It's by John Bradshaw. This book, transformational. Again, I'm not receiving any type of incentive for sharing this. I just want to help y'all have the tools that you need to heal yourself and to awaken the Christ consciousness within you. Let's keep going.
Let's talk the intersection between your shadow work, and sexual shame. First, to understand the shadow, it is anything we suppress, repress, reject, deny within ourselves. So one of the major reasons why we have a shadow in the first place is because of shame. Someone at some point told us or inferred to us that there was a certain quality that we expressed that was not okay to be. So it gets repressed, boom, that's part of your shadow now. Most of your shadow is created when you're very, very young, like think 8 or younger. Now, instead of a family member or someone you know in your social circle rejecting something that you express, now think about this at a societal level. Anything that is deemed taboo by society just automatically also goes into the shadow. And the deeper rooted shadow that comes from like culture or society tend to be the most unconscious to us. So living in a culture with sexual repression, sexual shame, high religious dogma, you best bet your entire sex life can sometimes end up in the shadow. Why is this a problem? Our sexual energy is our creation energy. It is our God energy. It is connected to things like creativity, passion, and abundance. So if we have parts of our sexuality that we are ashamed of, it truly blocks us getting blessings. Because of our culture, most of us have some form of sexual shadow.
There you have it. Let's keep going.
The shame and judgment that you feel is not coming from other people. It's coming from yourself. So all of those things that you feel are external coming in on you, it's not external like you think it is. That shame and judgment that you feel coming, it's coming from inside. And if you can't find the place where that shame and judgment is coming from, you got some digging to do. That's my personal experience with that. And the more that I realize that, the easier it is to be who I really am in this world. So if you have a goal of wanting to be genuinely, authentically yourself, find where that shame and judgment lives within you. It's not external like you think it is. I love you guys. Y'all have an awesome day.
I love his message and I totally agree. The caveat to my stance on that is before we're able to recognize that shame comes from within, before we have reached that level of thinking, that level of awareness, usually when we're children, we rely on external factors to develop proper behavior within society. And if we're in churches or we're a part of families who shame us for this sexual energy we're experiencing, then we internalize these feelings, and there our shadow is created at such a young age. So yes, I agree that shame and guilt comes from the inside, but I do believe that external factors affect that before we come to that level of awareness. Let's keep going.
How do you handle shame? Like shame around boys, around what you've done in the past. Immediately thought about the story at the woman at the well. Jesus told his 12 disciples, he goes, I know we need to get over here, but I have a divine appointment up here. He really took this long journey to go meet with this woman who was covered in shame and who had been with 5 husbands. It's like no in society. Came specifically out of my way to tell you to sin no more. AKA, I came specifically out of my way to tell you that you are so wildly loved by me. Not to shame her, but to remind her of like, hey, I know you've been with a lot of dudes. That's who God is. We think that he's a God who shames us when we mess up. God that finds us in the bed after a one night stand and says, get up, you dirty person. He goes, hey, daughter, can I take you home? That's who Jesus is. He shows you everything you've done. He knew every man you slept with, every drug, every drink you have taken. And he says, hey, can I clean you up? Can I remind you that I'm crazy about you and I love you, that I'll never shame you? I love you the same on the best day and on your worst day. I love you on the same morning that you wake up in a guy's bed that you don't know, in the morning that you show up to church. We have got to know Jesus's character. He's a God that chases you down, pursues you, and reminds you that you're loved. He will never shame you. He will never beat you up. He will never say, get it together, clean up your act. He says, hey, come to me. I can clean up your act. I can put you back together. I can remind you that you, daughter, are loved.
I think all of these messages are for the collective, for both men and women. There's a few different videos that I want to do, and I just don't have the time in this video to talk about it all. But I want to address sin is not real. I want to address that Christ is not outside of you, that God is not some man in the sky with a staff that is smiting you, that God is not outside of you. God is a part of you. And it's so important for us to come to this understanding and to step outside of the religious dogma that is used to control us and keep us small. But ultimately, you are not a sinful being. And the choices that you've made and continue to make in this lifetime will never ever keep you from what you already are, a son and a daughter of God. So I hope that this video hit home for someone. I really enjoy making these videos for y'all. I would love to know what you think. Drop a comment below. Let me know if this resonates. And let me know if you disagree too. Like, I'm always open to hearing all different kinds of views. And I think that in order for us to progress together, we have to keep an open mind. That's all I'm saying. But that's pretty much all I have for y'all today. If you haven't already, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.